Burnout and stress. Let's debunk myths and uncover the
Hey
essence of true
everybody,
self-care.
welcome to the Healing Project. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. So today's episode is called Anxiety Overload and the Lies That We Believe.
Mhm.
And today we're talking about stories of stress and burnout and what those stories are actually trying to tell us. So we want you to know that when you feel burnout, you're not failing. You shouldn't have those lies telling you this isn't something you should be able to handle. You should be able to do better. All those things that kind of the negative feedback, and we kind of get in a loop, right? An echo chamber
Yes.
where it's the same thing over and over. So
And those stories, they are lies,
right,
right? It's the telling ourselves that we're lazy, that we're not doing enough, that we're not
right,
showing up. And it's just the constant barrage of all the things in our lives. You're likely overwhelmed, you're overextended, or under supported. Um, we find that in some jobs, right?
absolutely,
But today we're unpacking what real burnout is,
right,
some real information about what that means, some tools,
yeah,
and some just grace
right.
that it's okay.
Right. So burnout is something that we're going to experience in many different settings, and most of what we're talking about is going to be related to work that we do or our
Mm-hmm.
professional careers. But the reality is, burnout can be felt throughout all. We'll talk about the definition because we've talked about it before in small segments, but we're talking about the warning signs right off the bat, right? So burnout doesn't always scream at us. It doesn't always like give us the flashing lights of warning, warning, warning. Sometimes it's just a small whisper,
Mm-hmm.
but it's almost like a death by a thousand cuts, right? Because it's just over time. So if you've noticed that no matter how much you sleep, you still feel tired even after you've rested. You feel disconnected. You don't have any passion for the work that you do or the people that are around you. Most of us are going to have to do things even on jobs that we love that we don't really necessarily love. So that's not really a trigger. But if you just feel that constantly,
Mm-hmm.
you start to get kind of that gray feeling, just disconnected. You're more irritable. That's a big one, right? Your fuse is a little bit shorter. You're anxious. You're kind of growing in the anxiety and you're emotionally reactive
Mm-hmm.
to things that normally you'd be okay with handling and be able to kind of work through those, right? You have trouble focusing at work and at home, and you just feel physically worn down. You have aches, fatigues. It'll start causing digestive issues. And the reality is these are all kind of warning signs for us. So,
Yeah, and as a nurse, I mean, it often shows up that you pull up to your job and find yourself in tears and wonder how you're going to
right,
make it another 12
right,
hours,
right.
or you come out of a shift and find yourself in tears that you have 2 more days, so you have to do it again.
Sure.
So it can,
So that's burnout.
that's
Yeah,
burnout for
yeah.
sure.
That's not normal behavior,
No,
right?
no.
And again, this is just finding ways to be able to get healthy and give grace to yourself. So,
Mm-hmm.
I want to give you a little clarity. The World Health Organization actually defines burnout as symptoms resulting from chronic stress, mostly caused by workplace stress, and when it's not successfully managed. That's when we can move it into actually burnout. So the Mayo Clinic actually tells us that if we maintain a consistent level of burnout, it will lead to emotional exhaustion, increase in cynicism. We know that already, but it also can cause us to have a decrease in our effectiveness overall, and it will lead to long-term
Mm.
physical disease and problems. So it's a
So,
big deal.
absolutely. And the part that we don't talk about enough, or you're talking about, is that untreated burnout. It
Right,
doesn't just go away, right? It so it has an effect on our body. It literally shrinks your hippocampus,
right.
right? And that's the part of your brain that remembers things.
That's crazy. You were telling me that earlier, and it's almost like we get stuck in that traumatic loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we almost forget, like, I'm going to share a little bit about my journey recently, but we can get stuck in burnout to
Yeah.
where we feel like there's no other option, or, I'm never going to be able to find another job, or
Mm-hmm.
things are never going to get better. We forget how quickly we forget, and it's affecting us.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So, I mean, it shrinks that part of your memory base. It also increases cortisol. So, your
Yeah.
stress hormone, it goes way out of whack.
Right.
And it throws off your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and your immune functions. So, you find yourself getting the common cold and everything that's going around at work.
Sure.
It can lead to clinical depression, anxiety disorders, and even heart disease. Believe it or not, like physical heart disease.
Yeah.
Your body starts to believe it's always in danger.
Right.
You're always in a flight or fight. Your nervous system forgets how to relax.
Yeah.
And that means when burnout moves from an emotional state, it starts to affect you physically.
Physical, yeah. And it's just increased trauma over and over again. Because there's going to be those days, like we had a day today where it just was like, it came in threes, right? Like it just was like bad news, bad news, bad news, right? And it happens. And a change at work, and a change, all of a sudden you're thrust into stress, and that happens.
It's lifing.
Right. And what we want to identify is that burnout is where that just never lets up, and we don't ever find a way not only to experience it, but find a rhythm in which to have rest and find some tools. So let's talk about our healing toolbox, right?
Yes.
It kind of segues us in pretty well. So being able to shift from just the symptoms to actually healing, because we can talk about burnout, we can talk about the stressors, we can both, and everyone that's probably watching this, lament and all the things that are going wrong, but what are we being proactive in, right? What truths do we know that we are actually engaged in, so that it doesn't go unrecognized, and it actually becomes a part of how we manage? Because some stressors are not going to be something we can escape. They have to be managed. And so that's a big deal. So finding ways to do that. What are the ways we can literally start to have a healthy boundary? Setting up a time where we say no. We were talking with a mutual friend, and they were going to like 9 birthday parties on a Saturday
5.
or something crazy. It was more than 3.
Yes.
In one day. So those, and feeling that obligation of always having to say yes when we may only get one day off, that we can actually recover and give our body rest and Sabbath. If we're just feeling a constant pressure of saying yes to everything, it can actually cause us to have an increase of anxiety and an increase of that stressor. Like we're failing everyone. If you say no, you're not failing anyone, right? There's some things we have to show up to, but most of the things that we go chase aren't going to matter a year from now or 5 years from now. So that's kind of a good measuring tool that we can use. So being able to set up a boundary, it's not just about being selfish, it's about literally survival. Simplifying your calendar. Again, you have to kind of take the proactive step. If you don't schedule rest, like this is the time. We're in a season of extreme busyness, and got a lot on our plate. So we have to be really specific with the times that and there's good things that we could be a part of that we literally have to say no to, because we have to maintain some sense of rest. So that's a really big deal, because if we don't schedule that rest, chaos will just fill it, right? If we don't give that time an assignment, it will assign itself, and we won't choose then. Somebody will choose for us.
Yes.
So that's a big deal, right? And then here's a big one. It's a big struggle because we're all guilty of it. It's limiting that screen time, finding ways to disconnect, because the screen time, especially social media, it's not helping us become more rested and uh, more in a place of grace. It's more anxiety. It's more self-judgment and shame, and I'm not doing enough. Or comparison is a killer, right? It's a killer. So we have to be able to shut that off. And listen, I'm all for being educated and plugged in and knowledgeable, but you've got to turn off the 24-hour news cycle, CNN, Fox News, whatever it is that gets you riled up. You got to step away from it, because it's not helping you Sabbath. It's not helping you take time to breathe and find those spaces. So
Absolutely. And, we always talk about journaling. Journaling is a good place to start.
speaking
And
of journaling,
yes,
you have a new product coming. We're going to be talking about that, but
yes,
yeah, we
the proof has been approved, and we've
yes.
gotten our oh look, we got our proof
Com-
copies.
yes, conveniently
Yes,
located.
sorry,
Yeah.
I just stuck them up there today, but we got them in today,
Yeah.
and so that's really exciting.
So if you're interested, we're going to be putting more information out there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But these are some emotional tools and journaling prompts specific for burnout. And so here's just a few questions that you can ask yourself in your time of journaling.
Right.
What am I over giving or under receiving? What do I believe rest says about me?
Yeah.
And what does my body need that I've been ignoring? These questions aren't about fixing yourself, they're about listening. Burnout recovery starts with honesty on paper, even if you don't say it out loud yet. Voice memos are a really great thing. You can just say it out loud to yourself.
Right.
Be honest about where you are and how empty or full your tank is, right? And let rest be restorative, not earned by exhaustion. Like, don't wait until you cannot take another step
Right.
or you cannot work another shift.
Right.
Or, I remember the days when my children were young, and I remember working a 12-hour shift at the night shift
Yeah.
in the ER, which is chaos, right, to say the least, in New Orleans, driving an hour and a half home, getting home, waking up children, getting them off to school, sleeping 5 hours, getting up, cleaning house, cooking dinner, and trying to do all the things. Within 6 months,
Yeah.
I went to bed and stayed
Didn't
in
wake up.
bed for
Yeah.
like 5 days, right?
Yeah.
Because I had just completely depleted and
Sure.
exhausted myself. So just knowing that you need that restoration and don't wait until it's fumes,
Right.
right?
And we might not be able to change. When we talk a lot about journaling and doing some of these practices,
Mm-hmm.
it's because we might not be able to immediately change the external. But if we can find that place internally, and again, it's not about fixing yourself, but there is something powerful about putting language and putting direction
Mm-hmm.
behind either your trauma, your pain, or your burnout, and being able to work through that and speak to yourself as you would a coach. Some stuff you may need to get out of your system, and it may be negative. And then you may come back and be able to read that, and it'd be empowering and say, okay, I have in the past, and I can again.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we are creating this future that's so depleted of hope, and it's the details in our mind is a lot worse than the reality that we face.
And it starts with honesty.
Right.
You have to be really honest. And I pray that everyone has a journal that no one else is reading.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
That you
Needs to
feel
be a
that's your
safe
safe
space.
space,
Yes.
that you can be really honest.
Yes.
Because sometimes in burnout and grief and relationships and marriage and parenting and all those things, sometimes the feeling that you're having right now, it's a feeling.
Right.
And it's not permanent.
Right.
And if someone is looking at your stuff, they may find it may be about them.
Right.
Right? Or it could give an idea that there is this extreme unhappiness or discontentment or hatred or
Yeah.
whatever it might be, or anger towards another person or situation when you were having a moment. Sometimes we have moments and we need to work through them to get through it.
Absolutely. There's practical things to do. If it gets too muddy and it gets too messy, just burn it.
Burn it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We both had a journal that it was encouraged to burn it
Encourage,
after
finish
you
and
finished
burn.
it. Yeah.
Yes,
There's nothing
yes.
wrong with that.
No.
There's nothing wrong with that. So one of the things is breath work. We've talked a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the importance of it and how it's used from, the simplest, practice, spiritual practice, to some of the most elite forces in the world. Just learning to, we can do it together. So if you're really stressed in that moment, you just take a moment to inhale big, 1, 3, 4, hold it, and then out, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again, 3, 4, hold, right? And there can be a variation. You can have a mantra, a prayer, but something that's going to give you just a moment to move out of fight or flight and realize, okay, I've survived
Yes.
before and I will survive again, and it's okay. It's okay. We just give it a moment to let our nervous system have a safe space to slow down, because everything is speeding up and we're getting more anxious and we're holding our breath and we're ready and on cue to fight or flight, and we've got to just take a moment to reset.
Absolutely. And I think about the snipers.
Yeah.
Not that we're shooting anybody, but even when like they're preparing, right, to aim and to take the shot, they tell them, take a breath, breathe,
Right.
then you execute, right? Like then you pull the trigger. And it's there's something really powerful in controlling and resetting
Right.
the nervous system.
Right.
And it's like you said, it's taught in elites, it's taught in spiritual, it's
Right.
taught in meditation. I mean, it's all over. In medical practices, when patients are scared of needles or
Sure.
having a panic attack or anxiety, the
Sure.
brown bag, right? Like
Right.
watch your breath and slow it down.
Right.
It's really, really powerful. So the next little part we're going to talk about is the body and soul tools. So I'm a wound care nurse. I've been a nurse for many, many years, and we talk about the things that you can do and implement and intake to
Right.
help with wound healing. And very similar to this, right? If you're having hydration, nutrition, vitamin C, protein, zinc, they don't just heal the wounds. They restore tissue in our body, and they can help you with mental clarity. So
Yeah.
that's really important. Gentle movement, walking, stretching, breathing,
Right.
nature, taking a walk, touching a leaf. We went to the beach yesterday, and that was very cleansing
Sure.
and rewarding. Just to be in the sand. We went to Publix. We didn't do anything special, right?
Right.
We just went to the beach,
Right.
and that was enough. And then sleep hygiene, of course. A cool room is really good to help you sleep. A cool room, no screens, having that downtime ritual, shutting the screen off at least 30 minutes to an hour before you go to
Tough.
bed
Tough.
is a very tough thing to do.
It is very
but
tough.
It allows your body and your brain to get ready and start cleansing your brain, right? And releasing the hormones that are needed to give you deep rest.
Right. Right.
So those are really important. Our next little section is scriptures and spiritual care. So burnout doesn't mean you're broken. Even spiritual giants hit limits.
Yeah. So we talked about this, and it is a story found in the Old Testament in First Kings. Elijah is this fiery Old Testament prophet. I mean, like the most just wild stories about things that he was participating in, and there's a story where he's bringing on a uh, a season of renewal and revival to the people that he's leading, and they're kind of between false gods and Jehovah, and there's this struggle, and there's these prophets of this other god that's gathered, and now it's just him, and it's a whole just crowd, a multitude of people against him. He prays this simple prayer found in 1 Kings 19, and basically calls down fire from heaven. The sacrifice is basically, it's a typology. The Old Testament is a typology, a metaphor. So the story is given, the sacrifice is consumed in acceptance, and the people are moved towards turning their heart towards the highest good again. They go from the false things that lead to emptiness. It's just drunkenness and filling ourselves and the ego. So you're moving in these typologies. So he goes and destroys all of that. It's pretty gruesome. Again, it's typologies and metaphors, but even after the fire falls, he goes into warrior mode and like wipes out this whole like group of people. It's just a really wild scene, right? And he's doing all these amazing things. And then when he gets done with doing all that, he wipes out, and there's this whole like restoration and shift in the entire nation. And he gets word that one woman sends him a death threat, says, before the end of the day, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. She's very descriptive of how she's going to do it, and she's the king's wife. And Elijah comes crashing down, right? He comes off this super high, the super spiritual, old school church language. He's having a revival, and he just comes crashing down to earth. And one woman causes him to flee in terror, and he literally prays. He prays to God that I've literally had enough, Lord. Like, take my life. I don't want to live anymore. I mean, just a few paragraphs before, there was fire falling from heaven, right? And everyone shifted towards the highest good, and all this kind of, just cleansing and change happens. And now he's finding himself completely at his wit's end, right? Completely burnt out, right? Completely in this space. And what's amazing about that, God doesn't lecture him. In fact, he sends him into the wilderness where there's food, there is rest, and there's silence. I never thought about that there's just silence. The heaven is silent. And when he finally has a commune with the Almighty, with Yahweh, it's in the still small voice. We hear that quoted a lot. This is the instance in which it happens. So he was driven from the low, low place into a place where he recovered, he rested, and there was silence. And we think that is the Almighty's disconnect from us, right? But it caused him to have to slow down, replenish himself, and find a space of grace. So that's a really, really powerful thing for us to kind of take into account, that even the strongest among us, right? The most spiritual, the most gifted, the smartest on their job, right? The achiever, they're susceptible and will experience these low moments, and it's okay. It's okay.
That that is very encouraging.
Yeah.
Right. And um, sometimes it isn't like we don't need motivation or someone to pull you up by your bootstraps,
Right.
or you need quiet, you need rest, you need food, you need water,
You have to take care of yourself.
right.
You must take care of yourself.
Very powerful.
Yep.
Very
Absolutely.
powerful. Well, I don't want to be Elijah.
But we all are. We all are.
We
We all are.
are.
It can be the one thing, right? It's the one thing that causes us to kind of spiral out of control.
How much does that happen though? Right? You
Happens
can
all the
have
time.
a million things happen and then come home and the dog chewed up
Because
the
you're
pillow,
overexhausted. Again, burnout isn't just us experiencing negative stress. Good things can be stressful for us, right? It can be stressors.
Yeah.
It's not just stress, it's stressors. It's something that's taking from us and we're not replenishing enough. That'll lead to burnout. It's
So
like,
tell me about your season of burnout right now.
so, just full transparency, we are really trying to level up as far as school. I was trained in seminary, worked for years in pastoral care, and now just in a different season. And so went back to school because of some of the things that were from the beginning in seminary. I had to retake a bunch of courses. So I basically started school all the way at the beginning in my late 30s, early 40s, and I'm not the most excellent student. And so going into that season and then needing to get to a certain place academically so I can become licensed, it's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. So our family is also working on transitioning and taking care of a lot of obligations, but also working on becoming debt free and things that we want to do. So, was recruited by a I'll just say the company is by Amazon, and I work in an operations job. It's a very high stress job, a lot of turnover, and so in life right now, we maybe have a half a day that's unassigned to necessary work, not even situations that are like, oh, we want to do this, or we want to go here, we want to go there. And we know that it's a season. We know that we have about a year left in that process. And we started this. So this is kind of our half a day, right? And for me in this season right now, I've experienced that, uh, having to work odd shifts and working through the night, and then trying to find family time and balancing study and doing all those things that I've had a lot of education. I've had a lot of training. I've had a lot of experience, and still I have to cross this finish line to be able to do the next thing that I feel is for me to do. And so it's really easy, and it has been really easy to fall into burnout. And I got there, and it's been a recovery. Literally living this out right now, taking care of myself, and we're walking through that together. And it's not all been pretty. It's been messy. It's been difficult. It's difficult, especially for someone like in your case, health professionals, and that's what kind of kicked off these conversations. Is because there are so many people that responded and resonated with the idea of what burnout is, and the effects that it has. And it's not always the horrible traumatic things that are happening. Sometimes it's because we're feeling our off day that we should be Sabbathing, resting. We're filling it with all the birthday parties, right? Or all the minutes in the day is assigned to something besides refresh, rest, and kind of refocusing and filling our cup back up. So I've had to learn this, and I'm learning it. I'm not really, really good at it. And there's a different season that's coming, and that's something we look forward to. But right now, it's having to live it out every single day. So it's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
It is. It is. And you are 100% using your toolbox.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
we
And
make
sometimes
sure that
I say, this isn't working. This isn't working. But it's 1% better, 5% better, 10% better.
yeah.
And we think consistency has to be every day. We just full recharge. But sometimes it's just those small, consistent steps that give us a lot of compounded interest.
Because right now in this season, you can't quit your job.
Yeah.
You're in your master's program.
Right.
Can't really give that up. Your children aren't going to allow you not to spend time with them.
Right.
Your wife isn't going to allow you to not
Right.
spend time, right? So there's not really something you can offload off of your plate, but you can use journaling and exercise.
Absolutely.
And rest. And we definitely do try to extend grace and make sure that you rest, and that
Absolutely.
we're doing things to help. You're the cook of the family, so I've actually started cooking some meals, which is
it's a big deal.
Almost a miracle.
It's a big deal. But you mentioned something earlier about sitting in the parking lot just as a health professional. You've been there a lot.
Oh, 100%. And it sometimes it's self-imposed.
Right.
When you work a 12-hour shift, you think, oh, it's just 12 hours. Okay, well, how long does it take you to get ready, and how long does it take you to get there? And you have to report 30 minutes earlier because you have to report from the off-going shift.
15.
So, right. So you're limiting any downtime. So then you have to eat, you have to shower, you have to sleep. And if you have any other obligations, right? If you go to the gym, if you do any of those things, you're cutting into your actual sleep time.
Right.
And not getting enough sleep and doing that multiple days in a row can very, very, very quickly deplete you. Get 100%. You to the point where you're like, why did I walk into this room?
100%.
Right? What am I doing this for? And as nurses and caregivers, not that anyone in operations or that works at the bank or any of those
Sure.
things, that those jobs aren't important. We all need money to flow and packages to be delivered and all the
Right.
things. But in the healthcare realm, when you are touching a patient and you are giving medication that is life-giving or life-taking,
Sure.
you are you have you have to have caring hands. You
Right.
have to be compassionate and empathetic. You are there is no sitting. You're up and down, you're running, you're going, like, from the time you get there until, if you get a lunch break that's actually 30 minutes, right, to the time you leave, you are mentally and physically moving and going.
Yeah.
Right? Even if you're sitting and charting, you're mentally working. You're
Right.
mentally, you have to write the story, everything that happened, and check all the boxes of what you did and what all the assessments were. And that is, it's taxing. And then the caregivers that are 24/7, you know, a spouse, an elderly parent, a family member, if you're working as a caregiver, you're their only lifeline.
Right.
If they eat, it's because of you. If they get up, if they get dressed, if they put on shoes, if they brush their teeth, if they wash their face, it's all on you to make sure that all those things happen. And it can quickly become really, really hard. And burnout is a real thing. I cannot stress enough to nurses and to caregivers and physicians and nurse practitioners and anyone in those fields that you're taking care of a life. Cannot stress enough that you have to find a place of respite. You have to have a foundation in the community and a support group. You need people in your corner that are going to understand that when you get home, you might need 15 minutes in a dark room to
Right.
just be
Sure.
quiet and not have no one need anything and no one
Sure.
ask you for anything, just so that you can change your hat, right, of where you are. And for caregivers that are 24/7 with loved ones, there are programs out there that will give you a break, that will send someone to your house for
Sure.
4 hours 3 times a week or whatever. Like, reach out to your family physicians and healthcare providers and get in touch.
Self-care is not selfish.
It's not.
Yeah.
Being able to take a shower and a bath.
Right.
My daughter, 4 kids. I mean, she told me today
Sure.
how great it was that she fixed her hair, put on makeup, and put on clean clothes
Right.
today,
Right.
So, I mean, even stay-home moms that are full-time moms,
Absolutely.
you have to take some time. There has
If
to
you're
be
under
support.
right, if you're under stress, right, and we mentioned it can be from the operational side, and what's those stressors are just as intense in some of those scenarios. And then when you're a caregiver, it's also that, but you're also taking on the responsibility of another human being, stay-at-home mother, whatever that is, right? If you're taking on someone else's well-being, whether that's you're in management or your family or whatever that role, it's another level. So you have to have that permission. The biblical example is the permission of pausing, right? You have to have that in your life. In the Good Shepherd, the description is he makes me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. That's like the divine order. Like sometimes you have to rest. You must lay down, right? Go lay down. It's amazing what, a decent meal, a hot shower, and some good sleep will do.
Yes.
It's amazing how different that challenge will look. There's some really good advice from some people that are way smarter than I am, but like never have a complicated conversation with a loved one if they're hungry, right? Just simple things like that, because they're under stress and duress in their body. So imagine if you just take that one simple element and then you add on all these additional stressors of no sleep, not taking care of ourselves, and overstimulated, and all those things. So
the irritability
yes,
level is so high.
yes,
It's the halt, right?
right.
If you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, do not do it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Don't
Do
have
not
the
go forward.
conversation.
Right, right. If you're burnt out, that's not a time for you to do a whole evaluation of every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
right? Really just look at what you can control right now and focus on what you're able to do. And then when you get some energy and you're recharged a little bit, then you can successfully navigate, or at least have some good perspective before you try to navigate.
Absolutely. So, I mean, guys, if you felt something stir listening to this,
Sure.
you're not lazy, you're not dramatic, and it's okay.
Right.
Give yourself the grace that you need to recover from your burnout. And like you said, small increments, and that's okay.
And we're not superheroes. We are human beings. We have limitations, and that is okay to be human. And healing is holy. It is a wholeness, from an H to a W, right? From being holy, it's really a wholeness, and that's the plan for us, is to be made whole, and that's what we want for each other. And this is a conversation we're having, but we're also inviting you
Absolutely
to be a part of that as well.
Yeah, so DM, send us your burnout stories or tag someone who needs this message, and remind each other that you don't have to earn rest.
And again, more information is coming about
Yes.
this. We're super excited. This is this is not for resale, so it's got a band on it. But we're really excited about that project. So thank y'all so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this community. And we hope something that we've said helps bring you some hope. And we look forward to the next conversation.
Absolutely.